What's up everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Grace Anyango. I'm a registered nurse in mental health and psychiatry. And in my channel we talk about mental health conditions, and today we are going to talk about communication disorders. So we had spoken about neurodevelopmental disorders, and one of the examples that I gave was communication disorders. So today we are going to dig deeper into communication disorders. And as we do in every condition, we have to start with the definition. So what is communication disorder? The communication disorder include deficits in communication, speech, and language. So we are going to define each and every word, that is speech, language, and communication. So what is speech? Speech is the expressive production of sound, fluency, and voice. So what is language? Language is the formal use of conventional system or symbols, i.e. spoken words, written language, and pictures. What is communication? Communication is any verbal or non-verbal behavior, intentional or non-intentional, that has potential to influence behavior, idea, or attitude of another individual. So what do we do during assessment? During assessment of communication disorders, we have to take into account an individual's cultural and language context, particularly individuals from bilingual environment, basically people who can speak two or more languages. What are the diagnostic categories of communication disorders? Diagnostic categories include language disorder, speech and sound disorder, childhood onset fluency, that is stuttering, social pragmatic communication disorders, and unspecified communication disorder. So we are going to tackle each and every category of these communication disorders, and we are going to start with language disorder. How do we diagnose language disorders, or how do you decide that an individual has language disorder? So first, when a person has persistent difficulty in acquisition and use and language across all modalities, that is spoken, written, sign language, and others. 2. Reduced vocabulary, that is word knowledge and use. Another one is limited sentence structure. Okay, when a person is not able to put words together, another one, word endings, or form a sentence. We would categorize that person as a person with language disorder. Language disorder usually is diagnosed or is identified during the developmental period. And one thing is the difficulties can attribute to hearing or other sensory impairment. So that is all about the diagnosis of language disorder. So the next one is speech and sound disorder. So what is speech sound disorder? Speech sound disorder is the persistent difficulty with speech sound production that interfere with speech or prevent verbal communication of messages. It mostly causes limitation in effective communication that interfere with social communication, academic achievement, and occupational functioning. So that is the definition of sound language disorder. So the onset is, as we say, the onset is mostly during developmental period, that is the early childhood. So one thing that we always say as diagnosticians is that difficulties are not attributed to any congenital diseases, that is cerebral palsy, cleft palate, or hearing loss. So, and then we are going to talk about childhood onset fluency disorder. What do we mean by childhood fluency onset disorder? Sorry about that. Childhood onset fluency disorder, that is stuttering. So stuttering is basically stammering. And I believe that we have all met of or had someone who stutters, that is a stammerer. That is how we always refer to them, stammerers. So disturbance in normal fluency, time, patterning of speech, and other inappropriate form of language. That is, an individual's age and language skills are not up to date. So we all expect someone not to stick to one or say one word more than one time. Like, for example, when I want to say I miss you or I am teaching you, I'll have to say like something like that. So that is not normal. So that is something that that is someone or something that we would categorize as childhood onset fluency disorder. So this person always has a problem with sound and syllables, sound prolongation, and consonant as well as vowels. Like I've given you an example. They can't say one word like as it is. They have to prolong a word. They have broken word and pause within words. Audible or silent blocking, like if they are unable to say a word, they tone down their voice, like to go, like that. They rarely complete a word, especially a word that is giving them difficulty to pronounce. Circumlocution of words, that is they use substitute words. They would not use a word that would give them problems, which me as a nurse, I would say that is one of the ways that we can cope with this condition, that is stuttering. When a word is giving you difficulty in pronouncing, then I would advise a patient or a guardian to advise their patient to use an alternative word, like a synonym or something. So monosyllabic whole word repetition, that is, like I said, when I want to say I want to come home, I'd say I, like the monosyllable, that is I'll prolong it before they usually prolong the monosyllables, and then they might rush the rest of the sentence, like I am coming home, like something like that. They'll prolong the monosyllables and then they'll rush the rest of the sentence. So onset of this condition is basically during the developmental period, and the disturbance is not attributed to any speech or sensory deficit. It is not associated to anything to do with trauma, stroke, or coma. When an adult, that is, who had already developed all the speech and sound are all up to date, and then they get themselves involved in an accident, or they have a stroke, then they start stammering, then we would attribute that to those conditions. But generally, when it is diagnosed during developmental period, then it is not attributed to any of these conditions, including coma and stroke. Next, we are going to talk about social pragmatic communication disorder. What is social pragmatic communication disorder? Social pragmatic communication disorder is basically persistent difficulty in the social use of verbal and verbal communication, as manifested by deficient use of communication for social purposes, i.e. greetings, sharing information in a manner appropriate to the social context. So how do diagnose social problematic communication disorder. During the diagnosis of social problematic communication disorder, a person will have inability to change communication to match context or the need for the listeners. E.g., the way I'll speak in classroom is not the same way I'll speak in the playground. We have like, I'll have to use the language appropriate for all this environment. The language I'll use in a playground is not the same language I'll use in a classroom. Another example is the way I talk to a child or the way I'm soft with a child is not the same way I'll speak to an adult. So this kind of people will not know when and how to articulate their communication. They have difficulty in following rules for conversation. During storytelling, this person may speak over someone, that is, they don't know when to take turns in communication. They may speak when another person is speaking, or knowingly or unknowingly, or they may not understand what the other person is talking or is saying. So you will always have to explain or give the meaning of words, especially words that have synonyms. So they'll always stick to the definition that they know. So you will always have to like explain or give the definition of the word that you're using at the moment, or the meaning of the word you are using at the moment. So the onset, as we always say in all this condition, is during developmental period. That is when someone is still a child before they start going to school. So basically these are the kind of people that their diagnosis is not easy unless they are into the social, they're more involved in society, in their society. So basically the people in their environment, when the conversation goes into deep way, or maybe when they're in an environment where people are storytelling, then people will notice difference in this person. So when you're talking about this thing and someone talks about another thing and they consistently do that, then you would categorize this person as someone with social problematic disorders. They don't know what and when to say something. So and the last category is unspecified communication disorder. So basically these are this communication disorder, their assessment or their signs and symptoms don't fit in any of this category of speech disorder. They're used when the diagnosis don't fit, and when there is no sufficient information to specify them into any of these categories. So I guess I've tried to explain all this condition in deeper level. If you have any question, then you can ask in the comment section, or if you have any addition, you can always add in the comment section, and we'll interact in the comment section as I answer all of your questions. And I'll try and figure out a way to make more notes on this, summarize notes according to DSM-5, because that is the current diagnostic criteria that we are using. So that is all for our lesson today. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so that when we are tackling the next condition, you will be notified. So that is all for today. Bye, and see you in the next video.